Welcome everyone to our webinar on fixing project scoping and execution. So a huge issue which pretty much every MSP I talk to seems to struggle with, which is selling it, the pricing, the packaging, delivering it, making money on it. Some just view it as a loss leader. It doesn't need to be that way. We should be able to make money and have fun doing them. So very excited to do this joint webinar together with Jon at ScopeStack. I'll introduce him and Kevin. So let's go next slide here. And so, yeah, Jon and I have done webinars in the past, and this is the first time we're doing more of a podcast format, so I'm excited about that. And then
Right.
I'll introduce Kevin, and then we'll hear a bit more from Jon and ScopeStack. So, but welcome, Jon.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me back. I mean, we have done one before.
Two before.
You invited me back.
Yeah.
So that's good.
This will be the third one. So, and welcome to Kevin as well. One of our mutual clients of both ScopeStack and TopLeft, and solutions manager at RunBiz. So welcome, Kevin.
All right, thanks for having me.
Yeah. And let's we're gonna hear a lot more from Kevin, so I'll bring him on shortly here. But let's go just for anybody who's not seen ScopeStack or TopLeft, we thought we'd do a very, very quick intro on it, so you know what we're talking about, rather than at the end. So I'm going to hand it on to Jon to maybe introduce us. Yeah, how did you get into, why did you start ScopeStack, and what does it look like, and who do you help today?
Yeah, so I'm Jon. I'm one of the co-founders over here at ScopeStack. So we've been doing this for about 7 or 8 years now at this point, and prior to ScopeStack, I managed a team of solution architects and I was an individual contributing solution architect as well for some larger IT services companies. And my main role is to create bill of materials and also to write statements of work. The bill of material quoting part felt relatively handled for the most part. What did not feel handled was the scoping experience. And so we had massive spreadsheets and Word templates, and it was just this extremely manual process, right? And I was always jealous because sales had their tools, project managers had some tools. Why didn't we have tools? So, right, as any good engineer, I would always Google Cisco SOW automation, and there was never anything there. And so, all that being said, this is a problem I faced myself in the business and scoping stuff out. And so, wanted to solve it. It's a relatively, niche and focused thing that we solve, but I think it's extremely valuable. It's a very prominent component of services organization. So, yeah, so that's a little bit about why. Do you want me to go do a quick overview of the platform, Wim, or do you want me to wait on that?
Maybe just a screen or two, just the basics. Yeah, you got some sort of visual in mind. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll share this real quick. And a couple of different screens, right? But really the core of what we do is all around how do you scope better projects? And kind of our differentiator is we want to combine level of effort and language into one platform. So as we're scoping and we're adding services, we have the language that will then show up on the statement of work, right? So here are all these steps. We can associate language to all of them as much as we want. But then really the impactful piece that I think speaks directly to this, and Kevin will touch on is, and I quite honestly, I never realized how painful it was for a project manager to then go recreate my work breakdown in a project management tool. And so pretty early on, we had built our integration with ConnectWise, where we would take what we were scoping here and push and create a project in ConnectWise automatically, thus maintaining that alignment between what we're scoping and then what we're delivering, right? So since you gave me 2 screens, here's the second screen, which is what it looks like and kind of what decisions I can make when I push a project from ScopeStack to ConnectWise. Which board am I going to push it to, associate it to a company? There are a lot of different nerd knobs on here, but just know that, right, we can scope a project and then push that to our PSA to then get delivered. And again, that's where TopLeft, of course, comes in extremely handy. So that's, again, a very high level overview of ScopeStack and really the problem that we're trying to solve around project scoping.
So I will do the same. Yeah, no, thank you for that, John. That would help me back like 10, 12 years ago when I was starting TopLeft. I remember like overestimating projects and just being in Excel and stuff and not that professional of a delivery. So never
Yeah.
mind execution. Just kind
Yeah,
of,
I mean, one of our very first client conversations was with someone that scoped a project for ABC Bank, and then another bank needed a similar scope. I think it was actually like an email migration. And then this new scope, they forgot to take out ABC company, right, and delivered it to the new bank. And that is what we call a resume generating event. And so like, it's just, I mean, that's a small thing, right? When your story, I know I've heard like, you know, under scoping a project and how that could have a huge impact to the business. I mean, that's really, we're trying to reduce that risk, right? Make sure we're, you know, presenting one voice to our customer as opposed to each individual voice within the business.
yeah. So I will share. Is my screen coming through?
Yeah.
I'm having fun with the new Zoom. I got
Here
it.
it comes.
There we go.
Yep.
So we have obviously TopLeft for visualizing your work, whether it's help desk, projects, sales engineering, account management. It can all be viewed on a Kanban board. So Kanban is like sticky notes on a whiteboard, and you got the columns, and your work is flowing through them. So you can do that at a high level on your project portfolio. So here I've got whatever, 10 or 17 projects open. And you're seeing that left to right from backlog, quoted, waiting, all the way through to completed. So if you see one project, for example, if you had a project scoped out in ScopeStack and you push it into your ConnectWise, your Autotask, it would show up on a board like this. So you could do a swim lane or horizontal grouping, a swim lane we call it, by phase. You could do it by engineer, different layouts. So very flexible. So each person gets what they need. Your project manager, your lead engineer, your team. And so you could do a swim lane for each project. So if you do your weekly huddle, looking at projects, what's stuck, what do we need to move forward, you got a view for that. And then as an engineer, you're doing maybe a mix of service and project, which is quite common and a huge challenge in most systems. You can just view it all on the same page here. So for this engineer, Peter, he's got some help desk tickets and the project tickets, which are shown with these orange-ish background color. Those are project tickets. So you can see what's on progress, what's scheduled, what's coming up in his ready column. And we've got the Gantt charts for your portfolio, individual project as well. So that's a bit of, just a real quick intro to TopLeft. Again, it's something I started in my MSP about 10 years ago because we were struggling with projects, and other tools like Trello, Microsoft Planner just don't integrate with ConnectWise. So we created TopLeft. So with that, let me switch back to this view. So I'm going to go over to Kevin and just, again, thank you, Kevin, for being here. And let's just go back like 3-4 years ago. And I think when we did the kind of the warm up, you phrased it as, if you're getting to tools, it's got to be all about the problem you want to solve and where you want to get to. So where were you at 3-4 years ago? What was the struggle and what was the beginning of this journey for you?
Gosh, well, it's really similar to you guys' journeys and why you created the solutions. We were feeling the pain, doing a lot of manual process, and just there were a lot of different holes and cracks in the process that efficiency and profitability were being lost. The turnaround time that it would take you to get a scope up and deliver it was just lacking, and so that was felt in our customers. Either a lost opportunity to kick off a project and get a customer to sign off on a project because the turnaround time was too long, or just issues or lack of confidence that would happen from the execution of the project. And so that's where we were. We were back there feeling those same pain points of everything was manual. We were using Excel spreadsheets and Word documents, and then whenever we were implementing the actual project, we were just looking at a list. It would just be a list. It wasn't very intuitive. Didn't give you really a good visualization of really where you were in the project. So that's that's where we came from.
Yep. And I guess, sorry, I forgot to ask for a bit of context, just the size of your company and where you're located.
Yeah, we're in Amarillo, Texas. We're about 25 at this point.
Yeah. Nice. Okay. And yeah, so what was next? So what did you start looking for, and what did you come across, and what are the things you tried?
Well, we didn't. I mean, we had a a manual process again of we had a spreadsheet, workbook that we'd built out in Excel. Each tab was a different type of project. We'd kind of went through there and built out some of the different items, tasks that would be for each one of those sections of the project, and had some formulas so that we could come up with what the effort was gonna be, and that cost, and then we would just have to take that information, and we had a Word document that we just did a lot of find and replace of customer information. Fortunately, I don't think I ever had one of the situations where I sent something with a different customer's name, but
Me
to be honest
neither.
with you, without the system, you wouldn't really know it.
Right.
And so yeah, that was, I mean, it was just a manual process, and it was painful.
Kevin, I have a question for you. Like, so those costing workbooks, literally just on a call with a client today, talking about this, like costing workbooks, what the statement of work looks like who owned that within your organization, and like whose job was it to solve it?
I did. And
You.
yeah,
Okay.
and that was I think that was one of the driving factors for, like, whenever I brought on these solutions, that I was really just gung ho about getting them spun up as quickly as possible, because I could see the potential. I could see the potential in how it was going to change my life personally.
Yeah.
From just the amount of time that I was spending, copy and pasting, and I think that was what sparked it for me, was just in going through that process, was like, okay, there's got to be something out there, a better tool, something. There's a
A
better
better way.
way,
Yeah.
a better way. And
Yeah.
so, and then searching through, and we're active in a lot of the just MSP, your
Peer
different
groups and
conferences, peer
yeah.
peer groups, conferences. And it's where I came across you guys. Actually, both of you guys was at a IT Nation. And so whenever I
Yeah.
saw that, I kind of went down the list of who all was active participants at those conferences, and I kind of do a little bit of homework, a little pregame before going to the conference, to kind of figure out what each of these companies' solutions have to offer, and then that way my time is best spent whenever I get into the solutions pavilion, going around and going, I definitely want to talk to those people. I know that what they're offering is something that I'm really interested in.
Yep.
Yeah.
So what doubts did you have before kind of committing to ScopeStack and TopLeft? What hesitations did you maybe have?
Um, Probably not any. I don't think there was any challenges around thinking whether the solution would deliver what it promised. I think the biggest challenge is buy-in, right? It's getting your engineers and those folks to buy into changing, to go in a different way. And a lot of it I mean, is when you have a professional services team where you got engineers that are, generally speaking, are more tenured individuals that they've been doing the work for a lot of years, and they have a way that they do things. And so coming in to change that is a bit of a disruption for them. So that was probably the biggest concern and challenge out of the gate, was just getting them to, trust the process.
Kevin still has an award for our onboarding team as being the best, i.e., easiest customer to onboard, because he had already done a bunch of the work that our team usually gets involved in, right? Trying to help think. I mean, you mentioned some like spreadsheets you had for costing out services and things like that. Like y'all had already thought about what that was going to look like, and now, yeah, you had to implement some of that in ScopeStack. But I think we find customers kind of all over that spectrum, right? Where they have not thought about it at all, and they're just kind of making it up as they go. But we have other customers that have almost over engineered it to a certain extent, and it's like extremely cumbersome and very nuanced in how you price some of this stuff out. I mean, I think if you can find a good middle ground and you can be flexible, right, around what that looks like, at least for us, and I don't know if it's the same for Wim, you and TopLeft, but like it helps keep momentum and you don't get caught in kind of the muck of either side of that spectrum, if you will.
Yeah,
but again,
yeah, just to kind of add on to that, I mean, I think that was one of the things that what really drew me to both of the solutions was I wanted something that was highly customizable so that we could slice and dice it and make it our own and
yeah,
to work to our workflows and stuff. But it also needed to be something that was simple. It had to be something that we could
right,
really simplify and remove as many barriers as possible in relation to time, just to speed that up. I mean, again, because the efficiency and the productivity wrapped around that is directly related to our profitability. And so
yeah,
the quicker we're able to turn those things around, make them where they're actionable, we can get into a project. And while we're working through that project, we can have a quick visualization, be able to look at a Kanban board and be able to see where we're at in that project, where it's going to wrap up versus where the next one is slated. And so that you can get all trains moving on time. Without that, if you're just looking at a list within like your PSA of projects, it doesn't really give you any information to really truly tell you where you are in the middle of that project. And
yeah,
so, I mean, that's another key point to, again, I mean, that's something that takes time, which eats into that profitability.
yeah. It's like that closed loop approach, right? I mean, whatever you scope for, right? Whatever you estimate, like what were those actuals coming back? And I mean, TopLeft does a great job of giving you perspective into that particular project, like in the middle of it as well, not just like waiting until you finish it, right? And they go, I hope that turned out well, right? Like you can see where things are much easier.
Yeah. Well, and it's nice too that you can put, different pieces and triggers in place for, you know, uh, you're approaching a deadline date, or hey, you're getting close or past a budget number, for the effort that you're spending. And that's one of the other things that that I think that are kind of some of the hidden gems within the solutions are, they do also provide you with good data that you can then go back to analyze and look at where you're doing and what things you can change. Let's say, training opportunities. Sometimes you look at a certain section of a, project that, oh, hey, well, within scope, we have it identified that it really takes this much amount of effort to deliver this outcome. And then you get in and you're working within the project and you see, oh, we're 4 hours over. Okay, what happened? Did we
Yeah,
do something,
right,
or and kind of weigh that out and against future projects, and then you start looking for those trends, and that's when you go, okay, hey, every time we get around to this section of a certain type of project, we're continually going over that amount of time. Okay, well then let's go back to ScopeStack and let's go change that template
right.
to get that time so that we can start getting paid on the amount of effort that we're putting in.
And you make that sound easy, right? Like that takes like genuine discipline to do that. And so I think with any of our systems, right, I think there's like just not letting your systems and processes become like fads, if you will, right? Like they need to be continuously followed. So I mean, again, you say it and you're like, yeah, we did this. Like that takes effort, right? So I don't want anyone to think like it doesn't. Unless you have a magical way you're doing it that I'm not aware of, which you should tell me that later how you do it.
Yeah. Well, you got to be motivated. I mean, you got to be motivated by the desired outcome that you're after. And I think if
Yeah,
you are, then that makes that type of work easy. It makes it easier, at least, because you
yeah,
have a motivation around it. And I think if you're driving towards you want to improve and be better, and really for us, I mean, the biggest thing is we want to be able to deliver the expected outcomes for our customers. We want to deliver those outcomes. We want to deliver it in the time frame that works for them. And then, and again, for us to still be profitable around that, but I don't know, feeling good about the work that we've done for our customer. And, having that type of data at your hands always gives you the opportunity to evaluate, reevaluate, and look to where your areas of opportunity for improvement.
Yep. I think it just creates a huge cultural change, which is a ton of work. So huge shout out to you and your fellow leaders on doing that. Like, it's one thing you can put the process in and you're more efficient, but then if people just go through the motions, then you don't get the continuous improvement. So keeping that culture alive is key, that we're always reflecting and improving. And I met with my MSP this morning because we made a quarterly launch, and we see that, right? Like, some things that we put in place 3-4 years ago were great, and we're doing it, but we actually lost some of the intention of what we're doing with the improvement and the root cause analysis. Yeah.
Well, and as you grow and as time passes and you introduce new people to your team and they're working within those solutions, you got to kind of paint some of that picture for them to understand the why. I think it's fun sometimes. I remember I was training somebody on how to do scopes within ScopeStack, and I went and showed them the old worksheet, and they were just like, "Oh my gosh, yeah, I would have tapped out." They're like, "Yeah, I wouldn't have signed up for this if that's what it was."
Yeah.
I mean, I remember hiring, when we were hiring new SEs and members of the team that were responsible for scoping, I would use ScopeStack and the story of ScopeStack as a compelling thing to draw them into the role, because not many people had solved it when we had first done it. And so I think it just speaks to Chunk's painful. If you're doing it over and over and just not fun at all.
Yeah.
Doing it the old way. And
missing so much, right? Like, Kevin, you mentioned that you ask 3 technicians and they all give you a different scope and it's missing other things. It's all from their perspective.
Yeah, you can't, each, you can hand a problem to 5 engineers and you're going to get 5 different ways to solve it, is what they're going to hand you back to you. And so that was another thing that what we saw this as an opportunity was, we don't necessarily want, to have a situation where, when engineer A does a project, they deliver a certain outcome, but then the next time, same customer, but different engineer, and then they get a different experience. And it wouldn't be where, then at some point you get down to a point where the customer is going, well, I only want to work with engineer A, not engineer B, because I didn't really like the way they did things. And so, that was one of the other problems that we solved through this. Was it gave us the opportunity to, really build out the services and sub-services, so that we could build out the way that we wanted RunBiz projects delivered, not per engineer, but a more singular voice.
Yeah, the voice of your business and not the voice of an engineer.
Yeah.
One voice. One of our customers said that, and I was like, could use that, because you're right. I mean, that's what you're trying to put out there.
And it's important. I mean, it's important for customer to be able to have confidence. And you slide something across the table to them that's $50K. That you got to have some confidence behind that you're able to deliver those expected outcomes. And again,
when a client's like, why 50K, you're like, I can tell you all the details if you really want to know, right? And we see that too. We have customers that provide just a bulleted list of all the things they're going to do. We have some that are it's very narrative driven. So I think it's always interesting to me to see what you're trying to present. We have some that are, focused on more outcome-based scoping as opposed to just tasks, if you will. So just, it's interesting, but at the end of the day, to have the data in the background, to have thought through what it takes to deliver a certain solution, I think that puts you in a better competitive position, because you're not, because time kills deals. I have a hard time saying that line, but I say it all the time. Time kills deals. And if you can respond with a scope and you can deliver a better outcome faster, you're more competitive. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the other things too, and because you had triggered something there when you're talking about what you're presenting to the customer, one of the other things was some of the things you don't even realize that you were missing didn't happen until we started working within the solutions and started looking at oh well, it was really evident quickly with the different language field areas where you had customers, the key assumptions, the client responsibilities, and things of that nature. I mean, we always had in our scopes the deliverables and what was out of scope,
Yeah.
but some of those other things were super useful in just helping set customers' expectations. Because I mean, the success of that project lived and died by their expectations. And
Yeah.
so if you were
Right.
able to say, hey, this piece of the project is going to be owned by you, customer, then you knew where everybody stood, and it wasn't, oh, this didn't, you guys, we paid 50K for this, but you didn't do this piece. It's
Yeah.
like, no, that piece was actually your responsibility. And so, we're more than happy to help you out and get through that. But there are
Yeah.
certain limitations in projects where it requires the customer.
Well, I think that's what I love about like just being in this space too. Is like, I mean, I'm not too far away from like having scoped projects, right? When you're not too far away from like having delivered projects and what you needed as an MSP. So like they have these like fingerprints of like us actually using them and like things that we needed, right? And then Kevin to have you on here and say like, yeah, I also needed that. It's just cool because I mean, it's like you thought you were the only one to have this problem, and thankfully we probably talked to other people before we like quit our jobs and started a whole other business. But um, you know, it's just cool because it's something that we lived. To hear you say that solving a problem is always fun.
Yep. I'm still using actually TopLeft every day. Like my work at TopLeft, projects, sales, marketing, customer success, we run it on ConnectWise tickets and TopLeft boards.
Yeah. See,
So
see,
yeah,
it's what you call drinking your own champagne, not the dog food one, but the champagne one.
we're always doing that, but even leveling that up, right? Practicing what we preach.
Yeah.
Because you can't really teach it unless you're doing it. You're like, yeah, you can't.
Love it.
Okay, so I guess switching gears a little bit, Kevin, how are you doing with your team? Like everyone working out of TopLeft every day? Are all the engineers working out of it?
We've got most. I mean, on occasion you have, it takes again a transition period of whenever you get a new hire or somebody that's been doing something, a certain way for a really long time. It just, it's a little bit more. It's a little bit more of a challenge just to get them to see and understand the why behind it. And it's one of those things that a lot of times they don't really know what they're going to gain until they just give it a try. And so it's one of those things where you just kind of have to, sit down with them and say, look, just, humor me here. Just try this out. I want to see it. And when you start talking about like just the expectations and things of that nature that you're after, that's when they start seeing some of the value behind some of the solutions, like looking in TopLeft, like the fact that you have all the different shortcuts there for scheduling and for time entry. I mean, I think anyone that's worked in an MSP knows that one of the biggest challenges around project engineers and anyone, I mean, any technician is time entry. Doing that in real time at the time, and there's a lot of valuable, insight, a lot of valuable data that comes out of that to see really again how effective you are, where we're spending our time. That helps from a management perspective, being able to go look here if people are actually tracking their time. Again, it's look at it as it is not an adversary, it's an advocate for you. It helps you because then you're able to go, hey, I'm not just telling you that I'm too busy and I don't have time to do this. It's like, look at the timesheet and it will tell the story. And that's what, TopLeft has helped with the engineers, and it helps, it's a storyboard. It gives you a visualization of that story. And so it's I don't know, I'd rather do a picture book than have to read 40 pages.
I like pictures too.
Yep. Yep. So guys, do you track like time entry percentages utilization? Like has that improved over the last couple of years?
Oh yeah, I mean we're definitely. I mean, and that's a never-ending battle, but yeah, it's definitely gotten a lot better. I think we're tracking our time better than we ever have, and I mean, it's again one of the things that we have here at RunBiz. We call working in the light, and that's just so that again, if everybody is doing the work that they're doing in the light, they're tracking their time, they're communicating with their team, they're communicating with customers. I mean, it's just overall is a much better experience for all parties involved.
Kevin, so like inside ScopeStack, you can have this like hierarchy of a service and subservices, and you can push to ConnectWise, PSA, like create a ticket for literally every one of those lines. I call that the anger the engineer button. Like what level of granularity do you push to your tickets? Just kind of, it made me think about that when you're asking the question, like
We
um, how granular do you get when you're having your engineers track their time?
So we wouldn't necessarily have them track their time against each subservice because again, for with us using ConnectWise, the services within ScopeStack come over as tickets, and those subservices are going to come over as the task. And so we
Right.
don't necessarily want to bog them down too much with saying, hey, you need to go track time against each one of these 30
Right.
tasks that are underneath this ticket.
Yeah.
You can track it at the top level. But as long as we're entering our notes and again reviewing those projects as we're going, then if there's something in there that's a challenge or an issue that needs to be tweaked, that's something that we bring up in our postmortem meetings for projects. Where we meet once a month and we kind of go and do a review, look at what we did, what did we learn. That's where we bring up some of those things of, well, hey, you have, and even it's an opportunity for the engineers to give feedback, to be
Yeah.
able to go and say, hey, every time you scope this project and underneath the services, you have XYZ listed out, and hey, we're either spending too much time on one of those items, or it can be, hey, what's missing is another step that we do in here. But I think
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's important to have all those tasks, those subservices within there because it serves as a checklist. And so, I
Yeah.
mean, we know that we're human and we can make mistakes and we get in a hurry and we can go over things. But again, we check all those boxes that ensures that we are delivering it the RunBiz way, not
Right.
the engineer's way. And so,
Love it.
Yeah, I think it's a very huge topic. Like we're doing these rapid implementation projects for MSPs coming onto TopLeft, and just like one we're doing now, it's like all the time is going onto one ticket on the project. So it's really hard to work that flow. So you actually have to work with them to first set up their projects properly, enter their time properly, and that's how you can start getting the flow. So they got to really change how they work, because they never worked properly out of ConnectWise either. So it's
yeah.
back to the 101 of just using the project module properly in the PSA.
Yep.
Well, and that also goes back and speaks to, what we were doing before too, with having an application that allows us to go in there and add all these different line items, within each service. It allowed us to get much more granular, and quickly be able to make changes instead of, if you had, the spreadsheet, there was always some time, well, we're going to make this change for, this formula or something. Well, it's like, well, I got to go change it on this tab, this tab, this
Go
tab, this
download.
tab,
Yeah. I
and then
used to have to like price projects out in this like spreadsheet, and I was supposed to download the most recent one, right? Scope my project or price it out there and then upload it. But more than often, I would not do like that, Kevin. So I would use the one that I thought was the closest and then submit it to the team for review. And they'd be like, no, you have to go put all that data in the newest one because it has the most up to date calculations. And I was like, for real? You gotta be kidding me.
Yeah. 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 It just affords you the ability to make changes quickly. And again, and that really goes for both TopLeft and ScopeStack. I mean, it gives each application gives the ability to go in there and make changes on the fly, and update those things and come up, I mean, from, within TopLeft, it's, one of the big things is being able to the slice and dice of what views I want to see. Do I want to see it of all active projects? Do I want to see of just maybe one particular technician, or drill down even further into one particular project? And just being able to have that, again, that type of flexibility at your fingertips is pretty valuable.
Yep. Yeah. So
software.
Yeah, as far as ticket scoping estimating, kind of the rule of thumb we always say is like no ticket should be more than like 8 hours than like 1 day's of work, and probably not smaller than like 1 hour, maybe a half hour, but like you don't want tons of small tickets. It's a lot of admin work to update each one. So kind of between an hour and 8 hours, something like that. Definitely not 20, 30, 40 hours, 100 hours on a ticket. Then you got no visibility into when is it going to be done and what are the next steps. So if we see tickets kind of growing and they're kind of scoping or expanding because the scope wasn't clear or it's an unknown, then as you figure that out, like break it down into maybe 2 or 3 more tickets of what's actually required to finish it.
Well,
You want these tickets moving on the board and not sitting in progress for like days and weeks on end.
Yeah, and one of the things that you just mentioned there too is one of the other things that we did as far as, when you look at where the project engineers are spending their time within those, if you have it more granular, you're able to see exactly where those times are, where the time is being spent. But the other thing that we did, when we implemented is I got all the stakeholders in the room that needed to be in the room, all our project engineers, all our, our CIO and et cetera. And we got all in the room and went through each of these projects and built them out of saying, okay, when we deliver this type of project, what do we want to be true at the end of it? And what are all the pieces? And you had all these different people thrown in. Oh, well, you forgot this step. You got to do this. And oh, well, this. So it was also a way whenever we went through building out these tools, it was also an opportunity for all of our team to get on the same page about what winning looked like for that type of project.
Yep.
So is that, I mean, that's an interesting topic. So was that meeting, y'all still have that meeting? Was that just when you were starting to talk about, thinking about ScopeStack, TopLeft, like how, maybe tell me how you are doing that today. Like, how are you operationalizing that?
Well, and that was the beginning. And then from changes, it's a lot of times whenever we scope out a new type of project, that's where we'll kind of get, some other people to, weigh in on that, and we'll go from there and we'll deliver that project. And if it looks good, then it's okay, that's our new template. That's our new template for the next one. Or some of these things will come up in just the postmortem meetings. Other times it can be whenever you are kind of building out your standards. And so with, like for us with one of the service deliverers we have, I mean, one of the key pieces of that is a standards committee. And so anytime you come up with a new type of project or new technology, et cetera, you want to develop a standard around that. And then once you've developed that standard, it's okay. Now we need to go have that translate into project terms within the scope. And so let's go build out a template.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that. Who's in that room? Is it pre-sales, post-sales? Do it like
it's kind of a bit of everybody within the standards. Like a standards committee is typically you want, somebody from support, they're, like your service manager, something like that. They're going to bring a perspective that you don't think of. Your VCIOs, it's going to be your project engineers. It's going to be a whole collective of kind of people from almost every service delivery area. That way you get a view from every elevation, not just an askewed view from one particular elevation. So I think it's important to, again, collaborate. And when you invite people into the room to help identify and solve a problem, that's where you're also, subsequently get buy-in because they got to help build out the solution.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, we get that question a good bit. Like, who owns it? At the end of the day, who owns what the scope looks like going out the door? And because it hits so many different areas, but there really needs to be one person, right? What's the saying? Like Wim and like EOS or something like that. I mean, it's like if no
like
one,
the saying of one throat to choke kind of thing, right? Like
yeah,
single person accountability, right?
Yeah, that sounds nicer, Wim. Not the choking part, but Yeah, but like, I mean, that's it. Like, who's responsible for that final product going out the door? I'm curious what, I mean, y'all both operate MSPs. So
Yeah.
who would you say is the person that owns the scope? We'll just be very specific going out the door and what it looks like.
The scope going out the door, I mean, we've had it where where I've trained up, the project coordinator, and they're the ones that are actually working with the project team to actually develop the scopes. And then we have a review, within ScopeStack, we have a review process. And so as each one of these, just because I'm kind of been the champion person that has the most experience in these solutions, the review process funnels over to me. I kind of give it once over, look over, make sure, hey, do a double check, make sure that we didn't forget anything, and then send that back and say, hey, that's ready to be delivered to our VCIO, who's then in turn going to deliver it to the customer. But the overarching ownership, I think for both solutions should be within the professional services team because they're the ones delivering the work.
Got it. You agree, Wim?
Yeah, I think, yeah, the team owns it. Yeah, I'm just thinking through it, right? But that's the kind of the agile philosophy is the team owns it, not just one person. Like you're working together to get the work done. So don't worry about what tickets are assigned to who or when they're scheduled and are people doing their schedule, but is the work getting done? And the team as a whole, working together to collaborate, improve the process as part of doing the work, improving the quality along the way. So yeah, they should own that together.
And that's also a big reason why when we go through the scoping process, like because typically the type of person that you have build out the scopes is not necessarily going to be the most technical resource that you have on your team. Because it's, as you're going through, adding all these services in there, it's more of an admin function. So the technical resources that we rely on are our project engineers. And again, because they're going to be the ones they're going to spend time when they deliver the project in doing engineer discovery. Hey, I just got this project landed in my lap, and now I need to figure out what all it's about. Well, if we are leveraging them to help answer the technical questions throughout the scoping process, then they're already familiar with what problem we're trying to solve. They've already got a little bit of it. They've done some research and got a little bit lay of the land of whatever that server is that we're working on. So they kind of know some of I need to, they've already identified some of the gotchas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agree.
Yeah, I think like senior resources, they shouldn't be doing the repetitive work. It should be about automating, scripting, creating templates, training others, making recurring processes, and definitely not estimating stuff over and over again. Do it once, document it so somebody else can do it. You always want to push that down to a lower paid resource. Like they should be about document the new, it's all about leverage for time.
Yeah, I mean, them help, having the project engineer go in and help identify, some of the technical gotchas within those projects and being a part of the building the solution, I think is great. But them having them spend their time building out, the actual proposal to present to the customer.
Yeah.
It's really, kind of beyond they're best delivering. And so I would rather, they're billable resources. And so I want to keep them billable as much as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like the word of think of like for development, we talk about like don't repeat yourself, like write it once, make it reusable, make libraries, make modules. And I think I can apply in this area too is they think through it once, identify the issues, the challenges, but then codify it so that now the team knows. You're always extracting knowledge and documenting it so they're not having to repeat themselves and do that same task over and over.
I mean, that's what we were trying to make really easy. Also two things. So one, we always get this pushback around like, oh, well, everything we do is unique. Like we have every project is unique.
Yeah,
okay.
That's the claim. Yeah.
Right. That's the claim. My thought around that is I get it. I think every project has some uniqueness to it, some nuance. However, I don't think you should recreate the wheel every single time. right? Like I think it should be the same starting point, kind of to your point, Wim. Like
Yeah.
it's the same starting point, but what we were trying to make real easy is like, oh well, we're starting from the same point, but we want to add some, some of that nuance, some additional detail in there. And like, how do you like save that and like add it to your standards and so you can constantly
Yeah.
kind of iterate and build on the standard piece.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's one of the things that we've leveraged with the blueprint function within ScopeStack is, it's for us, that's the 80/20 rule. I
Yeah.
mean,
Right.
you get that blueprint out there, and it'll get you, it's the 20% of initial work that'll get you 80% of the way there. And so, I mean, so that's how we start out every scope is we start out with a blueprint and then just go from there. And then you're really just modifying for those caveats. So then you're just looking for the outliers of how this is different.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yep. And yeah, I like what you mentioned when we did the other conversation, is making it easy for the VCAO to build that budget by looking at past projects. And I thought that was really brilliant as well. So just looking at, hey, based on we've done these projects before, and I think it's just going to be in this range, and kind of getting that approval from the client before you even go and bring in an engineer, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So we try to leverage, and that's one of the other things, from within ScopeStack, you can see all your existing and past projects, and scopes that you built out. And so we've set them up with licenses so they can go in there and access that. So when they're working with the customers and they're trying to build out their budgets, and their strategic roadmaps, they can get a good estimate, based on just cheating off our own homework and kind of just seeing and going, okay, let's give them a range, that this project here is pretty similarly sized, to this customer, and here's this same type of project. So let's base it off of this. Then they can put that dollar sign out in front of the customer for their budget and say, hey, it's 50K. Are you good for this? And if not, then you say, okay, well then let's put that on your strategic roadmap. And
Yeah.
let's figure out time that we can budget. And so, that's one of the other key pieces is you want to be able to, really help set up the VCIOs to be able to, work with those budgets and build out those strategic roadmaps and help the customer build out those budgets.
Yep.
And don't tell my co-founder this, Andy, the technical co-founder, but I was starting to play with like some use case for like AI, right? Like doing exactly that, Kevin. So based on like this scope project, what else should I be thinking of? And like being able to look back at other projects of either at that same client or something. Again, this is not like released anything. This is very early, but like to do what you're talking about, Kevin, where you're like, well, let's make sure we're not missing out on an opportunity that we might have, delivered for another customer doing something very similar to this, So I think that's something exciting. I mean, you have to say AI, right, on a call, otherwise didn't
Got
count.
to. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody has different views of it and to their
Yeah.
comfort level of how well, what level of trust. I mean, I think it's for us personally, it's one of those things where leverage it helps you to work smart. But you still need to verify. You still need to verify and make sure those things are correct.
Yep. Oh, Kevin has froze.
Yeah. No.
The
To help build it out. And then once it was built out, then I was able to take that to the engineers and go, okay, can you verify this? Can we make sure that this is in fact true? And they're, kind of go down the list and check the boxes. Yeah, that looks good. And so again, was able to turn something around. And, and in those instances too, I mean, you don't want to miss out as much as possible, on lost revenue, but in the events that you do, you just review it and you learn something. And so as long as you learn from that, I think that's the best thing you can do.
Yeah.
Love it.
I mean, I just see lots of, even without a direct integration, it's just taking that scope of work, statement of work, and putting into ChatGPT, obviously remove anything confidential, whatever, right? But saying, did I miss anything? Or looking at the wording, is this worded customer friendly? Or I'm not technical. What does this stuff mean for my engineer? How do I represent this in the statement? And vice versa. Like, how do I translate this back to the technicians? Like,
Yeah.
or write an email template, right? Hey, we've written a proposal. Go write the email template for me. There's just so many ways to save time.
That's just probably like a whole other webinar, honestly,
Yeah.
but I could talk about this for a while. I don't think we have enough time for today's.
No. So Kevin, with all these changes, I guess how much more productive, efficient are you guys as a company? I don't know what you can share there on profitability or such, but just maybe more subjectively, but what's been the improvement like for you?
I mean, some of the big things were, and you know, of course, like I said, it's been a collective. I mean, of a lot of different things that we've done and initiatives that we made. But I mean, within, you know, looking at our ScopeStack numbers within there, I mean, we've had a like 98 point something percentage close rate on our projects.
Wow.
And so, I mean, it's if we put it out in front of the customer, it's highly likely that that's happening. And again, and it goes back from good estimates, setting good expectations with the cost around that, and you know, within a frame, a range, and then delivering on that. You know, because again, if you leverage a tool like TopLeft, where you're able to get a better visualization of the project and really deliver on it, guess what? Next time you slide that one of those 50Ks across, they don't even think twice. They just go, "Yep, we're good." And so, and a lot of that's building that relationship and confidence with the customer, and hey, leveraging the tools to be able to do that just makes us better.
Yep. Yep. And I had another client on a couple of times as well, Scott Saradelis. He shared his story where adopting kind of the agile mindset in TopLeft, he improved his project efficiency like 58%. But he's like, this helped us get more deals with our clients and more referrals, higher quality, on time or early. He's like, we used to be like 30% late. So it's cutting to my bottom line. Now we're done 30% early. I can take on the client's happier and we can take on more work with our team. Like, it's huge.
That's cool.
Well, and also too, I mean, when you're doing fixed fee projects, you know, when you have fixed fee projects, it's not, you know, unlike hourly where you just get paid on the work that you do, but with a fixed fee, you're identifying and establishing a value for that project. So the faster we move through it and get it done, but still, you know, check all the boxes and do the work well, the more profitable we are, then the quicker we can turn around and take on the next project. And you know, and like you said, for productivity as well. I mean, being able to, you know, look at a Kanban view of all these different projects that you have and kind of figure out where you're at in each, you know, for an engineer, figuring out, okay, in this project I'm here, and this one I'm here, this one I'm here. Being able to leverage that view quickly to understand, quickly find out where they're at and what's next, speeds up their productivity.
Yeah.
Because they're able to turn around quickly and go, yep, I need to be working on XYZ.
Yeah. So have you seen like the last couple of years that you've been able to take on more clients, more projects with the team you have?
Yeah. Our project team's still the same, even though our growth has continued to grow. We've been able to manage it with the same amount of technicians that we have and engineers.
That's where it's at. It's our number one cost, obviously. So,
Yep.
okay. We're getting close to the top of the hour. So I guess, Kevin, any last questions or sorry, John, any last questions for Kevin?
No, I don't think so. Kevin,
Anything
thanks.
else you want to share there, Kevin?
I mean, I think that about covers it.
Yeah. There's a lot we've covered there, and a lot of these we could, as they always say, double click into, right? and zoom into.
Yeah.
But we've talked a lot on like the Phoenix project and the books that we've read in common, right? So you definitely invested into these things yourself. So just love that. You love learning and experimenting and implementing. So hats off to you.
Yeah. Good stuff, Kevin.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Well, thank you, John. Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate you both. And this has been recorded, so it'll go out and
Awesome.
to everyone. So
All right.
all
See
right,
you,
we'll leave
everyone.
it there.
All right.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, guys.